My name's Tom. I'm a used car dealer. All the time I get people that message on Facebook. They find out I'm a dealer and instantly the conversation goes quiet. Why? Because us used car dealers sometimes don't have the best reputation. People say they only want to buy off an individual. Where do you go to buy from an individual these days? You go to Marketplace. And people think that if you're on Marketplace, you're a stand-up guy and you're a better option than a car dealer. Not always true, guys. I get people message me all the time because they bought a car on Marketplace and now they have a title issue. So let me give you my top 3 recommendations if you're buying a car off Marketplace. Okay, so my number 3 point to make, least important of the 3 we're going to talk about, is don't assume just because you're buying a car from an individual when you go to Marketplace, Craigslist, OfferUp, Nextdoor, whatever. Don't assume that they are honest. When you're buying a car off Marketplace or wherever, maybe you went to their house, maybe you met them in a public place, but I guarantee you they have zero interest or liability in helping you if there's a problem. And often those are title problems, but we'll get to that in a minute. So my first tip is always take the car to get it checked out before you buy it. Don't assume anybody's being honest, especially if it's something about a timing belt or a transmission service or why is there a check engine light. One of the things that makes me laugh when I look at cars on Marketplace is people say, check engine light's on, it just needs a sensor. Well, guys, if it just needed a sensor, wouldn't you fix that sensor so you're not scaring would-be buyers away? So, always take the car to get it checked out. As a dealer, we all provide the Federal Buyer's Guide, which is that thing that hangs in the window. It's the as-is statement, if you will. And one of the things that statement says is ask the dealer to take the car to be checked out by a mechanic. I've sold hundreds of cars, and I bet you I have not had 5 people ever take the car to get checked out. And I think it's a great idea. It lets you know what you're getting into with a used car. Most of the cars that I sell are older cars with lots of mileage. They're going to need things. And that helps you understand what you're going to need. So I have had many people call me, message me, text me because of my YouTube channel asking, well, they bought this car on Marketplace and blah, 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 blah. Well, the reality is it is your own damn fault. So, if you are not a qualified mechanic, definitely take the car to get checked out. Also, for $20, $25, you can buy a scanner on Amazon and plug it into that OBD2 port. It'll give you the codes. If you don't know what those codes mean, a quick Google search will give you those codes. And you'll know if it is just a sensor or an indication of bigger problems. And I can tell you that generally sensors indicate a bigger problem. It is not the sensor that's worn out. So that is tip number 3. If you're gonna buy a car and you're not a qualified mechanic or you don't have a qualified mechanic friend to take with you, I would suggest taking the car to a shop to get it checked out. Now, if the buyer is apprehensive or won't let you, that might tell you something. If it's a shop, tell the shop, hey, I understand I'm buying a 10-year-old used car. I just need to know if there's any major problems. I don't need the dealership rundown of everything that needs to be replaced. And that'll give you a good idea if this might or might not be the best car for you. And it'll avoid you getting took thinking it's just a scanner when it turns out that it needs 2 catalytic converters and the transmission's about to die. So that's tip number 3. Okay, tip number 2 is ask to see the title before you make the purchase. Oftentimes, there's title issues with these cars, and number 1 goes into some more detail about that. But number 2, ask to see the title ahead of time. Ask the person, and hopefully you have before you even went to look at the car, is the title in your name? You want to see that title. You want to see the front of the title. You want to check the VIN number for that title. You want to look at that title and, just as an indicator, see what the date the title was processed was. Was it processed last week? Was it processed last month? Was it processed 5 years ago, like they say they've owned the vehicle? Because you always want to ask in conversation, well, how long have you owned the car? Now, under the remarks section on the title, that would be where they would indicate if it was a rebuilt title, which means it was previously salvaged and then put back on the road. Interesting fact about rebuilt titles in Texas now, there is currently 0 inspection or verification process on a rebuilt title. So if I bought a car and it was a piece of crap, it was in an accident, it was totaled, and I bought it from the insurance company and I put on a new fender and a new hood and the car looked fine, and I could then process my paperwork and get it turned into a rebuilt title. So ask to see the title, see if under the remarks, if it says rebuilt. If it's a car that's less than 10 years old, it will show actual mileage. And if not, it will say exempt. Exempt just means that in Texas, after 10 years, they don't track the mileage of the vehicles. The third one possibility would be bonded. Bonded titles, some people are scared by them, other people are not. What a bonded title means is that there was a title issue somewhere down the road, and a person literally paid a bond to assure that that car was legally owned and safe, and that there would be a repercussion for someone if it was ended up that that claim against that title didn't work. If you buy a bonded title car and say 6 months later somebody says, no, that's my car, I never sold it, I never left it there, whatever, I'm the legal owner, you will end up going to court. And then you will get a judgment from the judge that says you need to be compensated, and the bond company will pay you. So it's safe to buy a bonded title car. Some people have a little apprehension, but really there's no reason to. So that's the front of the title, that story there. The back of the title, look and see if that title's already signed. So what we call it in the car business is curbstoning. Curbstoners, or title jumpers, are people that they go and buy a car, maybe off a marketplace, off a Craigslist, whatever, and the person they're buying it from signs the back of the title and just hands it to them. And that person has made the assumption that they are going to go to the tax office and title transfer. But what they're really going to do is mark that car up, resell it, and hand you the title that that person signed. So it's not the end of the world if it's signed properly. If it's not signed properly, there's no way to go back to that person to get it signed, and then you're going to have a little bit of a problem. So just be aware. So I always ask to see the title before I pull out my money and make a deal. I would also say, as kind of a honorable mention, if you will, if you are going to buy a car from an individual and it's a car that you can pay cash for, take the cash with you. Even if you leave it in your wife's purse or you got it wadded up in your pocket, don't try to make a deal with a person with the assumption of, and I'll be back tomorrow to pay you. If you want the best deal you can get, after you look at that title, you say, will you take X and make it lower than you're hoping? I have the money with me. And pull that wad out and show them. Because I've found that when people see the money and they know you're not kidding, you got a much better chance at getting a better deal. So that's number 2. The tip is make sure you look at the front and back of the title before you make an offer. The honorable mention is take the cash with you and look it over. Now you're going to see my shameless plug. Don't skip by it. When we come back, we're going to do the number 1 thing I want to tell you when you're buying a car off Marketplace. Hey guys, just wanted to take a second to tell you thank you for watching my video, and of course, now it's time for the shameless plug where I ask you to give me a like, a subscribe, and a comment about my video. I recently found out when looking at my YouTube information that only about 5% of my people that watch my videos are actually subscribed. And I think I know why. I mean, generally you YouTube or you Google search the question that you have, usually about car titles, and then it shows you my video. You get the information you need and you move on. That's all well and good. But if you could take a minute and just hit that subscribe button, maybe you leave me a comment below. Hey, where did you find this video? Did you find this video looking on YouTube? Did you Google me to find this video? Are you a return subscriber who likes to look at my content? I'd really like to know where my people are sourcing my videos from. And if you could give a like and a subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. There's a playlist with plenty of other videos, behind the scenes videos, Texas title issue videos, and of course the walk around videos for the cars that we actually sell. Believe it or not, we really generally are a used car dealer, not a YouTuber. But if you could do those things for me, I would sincerely appreciate it. Thanks for watching, and now we'll get you back to your video. Thanks again. Okay, here is my number one tip. I have came to the conclusion that this should be the number one tip based on the feedback that I receive at my business through emails, through phone calls from people that tracked me down, people that have left comments on my videos, okay? So this is the thing. I do lots of videos on bonded titles, salvage titles, rebuilt titles, how to file for a duplicate title. And because people have watched those videos, when they run into title problems, they message me. So here is my number one must-do tip when you're buying a car from a private party. That is, make sure you get a properly signed title. So often, people get titles that are not signed correctly, and they go to their county tax office, and the county tax office rejects their title. And then they go back to the person they bought it from, and a couple of things happen. One, if it is the person that you bought it from, your county tax office probably gave you what they call a statement of fact or affidavit of fact, depending on what your county is. At least that's here in Texas. I'm sure there's a form like it in other states. Basically, it's a form that says, hey, I'm Suzanne Smith. I accidentally signed my title as Susie Smith, but Susie Smith and Suzanne Smith are the same person. Or I accidentally signed the title as the buyer, but I was the seller. Basically, it's a form that lets you fix the signature error on a title. And if you bought the car from the person that legitimately owned it, that's not a problem. Okay? If you bought the car from a person that title jumped it, and Suzanne Smith signed her title Susie Smith, but you bought the car from Bob Jackson, I guarantee you Bob Jackson is not going to be around and not going to be able to help you get that form. Now, you may be slightly tempted to try to modify that title to make it correct. Let me tell you, any strikeouts on a title will void the title, at least in Texas. So that will not work. You could try to forge a statement of fact, but forgery on a government document like a car title or related documents in Texas is a felony. If you get caught, you are going to have a problem, and it is not worth it. So if you end up with a title that is not signed properly, you're going to have limited choices. You're going to have choices like doing a bonded title. Oh yeah, I'm not sure which way's which. Oh yeah, one of these corners will have a video after a while about doing a bonded title, because you might have to do that. Also, if you need to see exactly how to get a properly signed title, I have a video on that too, and it's going to be in one of those two corners. So thanks for watching this video. Beware and be diligent when you're buying a used car from an individual. And if either of these two other videos help you out in the future, I would be glad to show you those too. Thanks for watching.